I have loved Spider-Man since I was a child. Since I was 3 years old, I have loved anything Spider-Man, the content. I fell in love with the live action movies because I was 3 years old. I remember it was very, very early in the morning, and my dad was in the living room watching the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. And I remember hearing him, and nobody else was awake. It was just me and him. And I remember going in the living room and just sitting next to him, what are you watching? And he was like, I'm watching this new movie. Do you want to watch with me? And I remember just seeing this film, and honestly, it changed my life. As a little kid, I didn't know that a movie like that was possible. It really, really, hit home with me immediately. And since that moment, with my dad, it was such a beautiful bonding moment between me and my dad. Since that moment, I have always loved Spider-Man. I love Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I love Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I love Tom Holland Spider-Man. I love seeing all of these movies. I love the animated versions, the comics. I just love anything involving Spider-Man. Venom, I didn't care. I just loved it all. Until I saw Madam Web. And she ruined it for me. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Qualified Friend Podcast. I'm your host and bestie, Qualified Friend Jahsoulay. And I'm here because I don't know what I'm qualified for, but I do know I am qualified to be your friend. So listen, we gotta talk about Madam Web, and let's just get right into it. So, Madam Web is a masterclass on how not to make a movie. It is single-handedly the most useless film I've ever seen, and it is actually disrespectful. It's disrespectful to media as a whole. I'm dressed in all black today because I am mourning the art of storytelling, and I just think that as a writer, as someone who creates art, and as someone who just has a pulse, I feel the need to stop you from ever seeing this film. There's no reason you should go see this film. And I was thinking of doing a fun Madam Web review video, but spoiler free, just in case you want to go see it. But I can't allow that. This is I watched Madam Web so you don't have to. And I just want you to sit back, relax, and I'm going to explain to you why you should not see the film. If you were on the fence, which I don't think you were, I think a lot of people know the movie's not going to be good. But if you just want me to explain, why it's so bad, I'll do so now. A little background on me. I was a film major for 3 years. I have extensively studied, because my professors were not easy. I've extensively studied what elements you need to make a story, to make a film. And Madam Web basically took all those elements and threw them in a dumpster and lit it on fire, and then said, but let's put it out to the public anyway. And it's extremely upsetting. I'm overwhelmed. But let's get a little bit lighthearted before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all. A little bit on me. I have loved Spider-Man since I was a child. Since I was 3 years old, I have loved anything Spider-Man, the content. I fell in love with the live action movies because I was 3 years old. I remember it was very, very early in the morning, and my dad was in the living room watching the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. And I remember hearing him, and nobody else was awake. It was just me and him. And I remember going in the living room and just sitting next to him, what are you watching? And he was like, I'm watching this new movie. Do you want to watch with me? And I remember just seeing this film, and honestly, it changed my life. As a little kid, I didn't know that a movie like that was possible. I didn't know that, you could. I just didn't know it was possible to see someone just being super and powerful and saving lives, and it really, really hit home with me immediately. And since that moment, like with my dad. It was such a beautiful bonding moment between me and my dad. Since that moment, I have always loved Spider-Man. I love Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I love Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I love Tom Holland Spider-Man. I love seeing all of these movies. I love the animated versions, the comics. Like, I just love anything involving Spider-Man, Venom. Like I didn't care. I just loved it all until I saw Madam Web, and she ruined it for me. Like, the fact that Sony is the same people, like, you can make Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, and you can also make Madam Web. Like, my head is spinning that this is the same company, and somehow like there's it's not even there's no over, like, it's here and like, how did you completely pass, like, it shouldn't be possible. It shouldn't be possible. And it's actually, like, sickening. Like, you think you know a guy. Like, this is what's it called? Something and Hyde? Jekyll and Hyde? What's the name? Anyway, there's it's overwhelming that you are capable of creating some of the best Spider person content and the absolute doggy doodoo Spider-Man content, and I just don't know. I don't know how to rectify these things. Like, how did you do it? I think that actually be interesting to figure out the inner workings of how did you make one of the best Spider-Man films and also one of the worst, not even spider film, one of the worst films I've ever seen. How did you do it? How'd you do it? I want to know. I'm very interested in figuring that out. But I just want to go a little bit in depth in talking about the movie. I want to make clear that I'm not gonna say a lot of specific names because I don't know the names of the characters. Because the movie is very forgettable. The movie's very old. It's not even laughably bad. Like, I know there's a lot of people who like to hate watch movies. Like, one of my good friends asked me, like, should I watch it just to, like, watch it as, like, a joke with my friend? Like, it's not even, the movie's not even funny as a joke. The movie's just awful. Like, I cannot trust it. Don't pity watch this. Don't hate watch it. Don't watch the film. It's not good. I cannot stress this enough. It makes me actually very, very mad. And I also want to explain this, like, I love loving movies. I love watching films that I like. I hate when I watch something and I don't like it. Like, my biggest thing is, like, I did not want to come here today dressed in all black, doing the theatrics and dramatizing. Like, I wanted so badly. I don't want to be on the hating Madam Web bandwagon. I wanted so badly to come here and, like, actually tell you, like, oh, there's redeeming things about it, or actually it's actually pretty good. Like, I wanted to say that so badly, but I can't sit here and lie to your face. Not for clickbait, not for nothing. The movie's bad, and I knew it was going to be bad because the trailers are bad. The trailers are horrendous. I watched the trailers and I was like, is this a joke? Like, usually the trailer can get me. Like, even the trailer for Morbius was interesting to me. I thought, okay, he's a vampire. Okay, this could be something. I didn't even finish Morbius. I fell asleep twice trying to watch it, and then I ended up just putting it on 2x speed. And I don't even remember how it ends. Like, Morbius, I. But Madam Web, like, but, like, at the very least, I feel like you can hate watch Morbius and find it kind of funny. This movie is just awful to be awful. It's awful, 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 awful. And the movie is useless because it's the whole point. The whole point of this film is to make another film. The whole point of Madam Web is to make another movie, because it's a prequel, which again doesn't make sense. Because the point of a prequel is that you're supposed to give us an original movie, and then you make a prequel that further goes into that a character we care about, mind you. It further goes into that character's origin stories. It further goes into why they are the way they are. It gives you Easter eggs. It gives you, a little something like, oh, and that's why they talk like that, or that's That's how they got their costume, and that's how. Madam Web is a prequel for characters we don't know or care about. Does that make any sense to anybody? What is the point of this film? The point of the film, I guess, is to entice you to want to watch more movies about the characters. But also, this movie does a terrible job of making us care about the characters because every character in this film is extremely unlikable or completely one note and forgettable. Or we already know is going to die, so what's the point of caring about them? Let me explain. Now, this movie is set in 2003. It's a period piece, if you will. Thinking about this, like 2003 was 21 years ago. That's kind of crazy to think about. But it's true. And anyway, my brain just short circuited just thinking about how I have to talk about this. My head. Anyway, so it's set in 2003, and the main character is Cassie Webb, Madam Webb, the titular character played by Dakota Johnson. Madam Webb's notable characteristics is she is a crazy driver. Like, she's a paramedic, and she drives, like, psychotically throughout the city of New York. Doesn't crash the car somehow. But she's just this expert paramedic driver. Skirt. And she drowns multiple times in the film. And those are her only notable qualities that I can even remotely remember. And she's also a really bad person to children. She does not like children. She's very mean to children. Young teenager and little kid alike. At one point, she's given a drawing by a child because she saved the child's mother. She's given a drawing to the child, and she's like, "What am I going to do with this? Take it? What do you mean? Like, she's not a good kid. Like, she's overwhelmingly a bad character." And my thought process is maybe they're trying to, like, say, like, character development. Like, she starts off sucky, but eventually she'll be a better character in the future. No. She just seems boring and not very likable. And I just don't know why I'm supposed to care about this character. And the same thing goes for the other three Spider Girls, and we'll get to them in a minute. But she's just not a good character. And honestly, this is just putting this out there into the world. This movie might as well have just been called Fast and Furious 12 Spider Edition. And that would have been a better marketing pool to get me to see them. Like, that would have been better marketing. That would have been way more interesting if it was like a Spider-Man Fast and Furious crossover. Because that's basically what the movie was. I saw more driving action than I ever saw any superhero action. Because there was none. If this is a spoiler, hoo-hoo-ha! Don't see the film. But the three Spider Girls in this movie, they don't have powers in this movie. Think about that. They don't have their powers in this film. So we're just watching three teenage girls running in a circle for how long? How long was the movie, actually? How much time did I spend on this? No, hold on. Madam Web, runtime. It was an hour and 54 minutes? No. Don't see this. Don't waste 2 hours of your life seeing this movie. Oh my gosh. It was so long and nothing happens in the film. This movie, so many things happen in the film, but also nothing happens in the film. Like, it's so useless. It's such a useless film. Makes me mad. Anyway, with the entire movie, the girls don't have powers. They never get their powers in the film, but they just keep telling us that they're going to get powers. Like, in the future, they're going to be crime fighting, butt kicking, super women. Like, they talk about it a lot because the main plot point for the villain of this film, who we're just going to call a villain because I don't know his name and I don't care to know his name, basically, again, background on him, he basically kills Madam Web's mother. And when I mean kills, I mean, she was pregnant with Madame Web, and because basically she goes to the Peruvian jungles, the jungles of Peru, to find a very canonically super duper hard to find spider. Her words are, "Oh, no one's been able to capture the spider alive," but somehow Madame Web's mother finds it almost immediately. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. That's a pitch meeting reference. Love you, Ryan George. But anyway, super easy, barely an inconvenience. She finds the spider alive, intact, puts it in a jar, and the villain, he wants the spider so badly, he kills everybody on the site of the Peruvian jungles. He kills everybody, and then he's talking to Madame Web's mom, and he's like, give me the spider," and she's like, "No, we can save so many people." And he's like, "Give me the freaking spider, you crazy?" And she's like, "No, we can help people." And then he literally shoots a pregnant woman. He shoots a pregnant woman in the abdomen. Huh? Like, that's what? So that happens, and then basically these Peruvian jungle spider people, they come from the trees, and they basically scoop up Madame Web's, I'm gonna call her Mama Web. They scoop up Mama Web, and they take her, and they basically, and she's 9 months pregnant, by the way. But they basically deliver her baby before she dies, and they they put a spider on her chest, and the venom, I guess, goes into her DNA. Something, something, etc., etc. I don't know, girl. I don't know, I don't know. So many plot holes in this film. I don't know. But that's what happens. And then Mama Web dies, and cut to 2023 New York. So the villain has really no reason to be a villain. He basically keeps saying over and over is, "I came from nothing. I grew up poor. So that's why I'm a morally deficient person, and I'm gonna shoot a pregnant woman because I came from nothing, and you're not gonna stop me." Womp womp. Like, be quiet. There's so many people who have gone through hardships and terrible lives, and they don't become supervillains. So I do not feel bad for you. I don't resonate with you. You're just a terrible person to be a terrible person. And that's the whole point, is the villain is a villain just to be a villain. He's mad just because he can be mad. He does not have an actual arc. He's literally a throwaway character, because they tell us in the first 20 minutes of the movie that he's going to die. Because the entire plot of the film is that this evil villain, he basically has these visions that the three spider girls are going to kill him one day. So he's like, "I'm going to kill them before they can kill me." And some type of paradoxal murder plot that he decided to go on to. And that's the whole plot of the film. And basically, he gets this super good technology that can identify people, so he's able to find the girls. But again, another insane plot that doesn't, basically, he's only seen these girls in his visions, and somehow he's able to perfectly describe what the girls look like to his woman in the chair instead of a guy in the chair. It's a female who's really good with computers. He's basically to describe what the girls look like in his visions to her, and then she's like, "Oh, but we should age them down because it hasn't happened yet." So they age the girls down 10 years. Also, in his visions, he only sees them with their masks on. So somehow the technology, the software, perfectly describes the girls, ages them down 10 years, and puts the masks on them. And then they know exactly what the girls look like today, because that's science. Huh? What? But you know what? It's a movie. We're gonna suspend our belief. So he basically finds these girls instantaneously, and it just so happens that they all live in New York City, and they're all 15, 16-year-old age girls, and they all live around the same neighborhood, and they're super easy to find, and they all just so happen to be on a subway at the exact same time. And Madam Web is also on that subway. So it's super easy, barely an inconvenience. Ryan George, I promise I'm giving you all the credit for this. Please do not sue me for using your tagline. I just love you so much, please. Thank you. Anyway, so they're all on this train, and basically Madam Web and her paramedic antics, she accidentally gets trapped in a car and drowns and dies, and then she gets revived. And when she's revived, she has super cool vision powers where she can see the future now. She basically glorified like astral projects at one point, multiple times actually. She astral projects into a web, and the web shows her timelines and things that could happen. Anyway, I'm not gonna start to begin to understand it, but that's what happens. Anyway, so basically, she's like, "Girls, you have to get off this train. He's going to kill you!" And like they actually listen to her. Okie dokie. And they get off the train and they start running. And it's also like they survive this. Like, even if you know that a villain's coming, you guys are all just three random women who don't have superpowers. So how exactly did you guys survive this souped up Spider-Man trying to kill you? It doesn't make any sense. They would not have survived the entire film. There's so many scenes where it's like, and they survived that? No way, y'all should all be dead. So stop it. But again, we're gonna suspend our belief because it's a movie. Whatever. But let me just go into more of the characters and what I was trying to say. No character in this film is likable. We don't care about these girls. We don't know these girls. We don't. It just doesn't matter. And the only likable characters I can think of is Mama Web. She was actually a pretty interesting character. Dies instantly. And then, oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. Madam Web's partner, like the other paramedic in her paramedic van who helps her out, is Uncle Ben, like a young version of Uncle Ben, played by Adam Scott. Love Adam Scott. He's so good in all of his other shows. He did not have to do this movie. But I guess you'll do anything for a check. I'm kidding. Please don't come for me, Adam Scott. I love you, I promise. And also, so he's Uncle Ben, young Uncle Ben. And then Peter Parker's mother is played by Emma Roberts, from like Unfabulous and Scream Queens. Again, I love Emma Roberts. Why did you do this film? Let's get more into the Spider Girls. Again, they don't have their powers in this film. They don't have their powers. They're just three random teenage girls, and they're just the worst version of teenage girls I've ever seen depicted on anywhere. They're annoying. They're mean. They're jerks. They're dumb. They're honestly pretty dumb as characters. And I'm just like, I get it. I was a teenage girl at one point. We can be annoying. We can be kind of dumb. We can be jerks. That's a thing that teenage girls can be jerks. But these girls take it to the 1 billionth degree. Like, they're like insufferable to watch on screen. Zero chemistry between any of them. And it's just like, why am I watching this? Why am I supposed to like this? So Sydney Sweeney plays a very like timid but character, but she's just so whiny about it. She's like, I don't think we should be doing that, guys. I don't think we should do. We shouldn't go there. She's so annoying. She's so whiny. She's so complaining, and it's just like, why should I like these people? And also at one point, the other two girls, Sydney Sweeney basically has like a teddy bear, and you can be 15 and have a teddy bear. That's not the problem here. Hello, I'm 22. I have a Stitch right here. Like, it's okay to have stuffed animals, but these girls literally they basically bully Sydney Sweeney's character the entire film. They take her backpack from her and they open her backpack and they find a teddy bear and they're like, "Oh, you got a teddy bear?" Like, can you guys shut up? Like, why am I supposed to care about anything that happens to these characters? Here's what I think that they were trying to do with the film. So all the three girls in this film are either have completely absentee parents that just don't give a crap about them, or their parents are not in a position to take care of them. So basically, Sydney Sweeney's character, her mom is like in a mental facility somewhere, unfortunately, and her dad basically married another lady who has a kid, and he basically was like, "Oh, I don't care about my daughter now." What? Um, but he basically just like doesn't care about his child, so he's just like a terrible father to her. Um, the other character, she's like a rich girl, so her parents are just like off in Europe, Asia, Africa. They're on a different continent somewhere, and she just left home alone with the nanny all day. So they're just awful parents. And then the other girl, her dad again, unfortunately, got deported. So she's just been living in New York by herself, in her apartment. So I guess like they want us to feel bad for these girls because like they just have like absentee or parents that just can't be with them in some way. But me feeling bad for someone does not equate to me caring about someone, or me feeling bad for someone does not equate to them being a good character. Like, I feel like the writers just kind of threw that in there, like, feel bad for them because their parents aren't there. And that should excuse all of their deplorable, awful behavior. And, like, I just shouldn't think they're annoying anymore because they have reasons for being annoying. Like, that's not how that works. I can feel bad for you and also not like you. Like, those things are not mutually exclusive. People are very complex. And I think instead of giving these girls any type of character, they just said, they basically were like, well, you should feel bad for them, number one, and number two, eventually they'll be good guys, superheroes, and you'll like them later, so you should just care about what happens to them now because they fight crime later. Because, and also, the only thing we know about these girls is that they eventually kill a villain. That doesn't make me like them? Just because the villain's worse than they are, why should I like them? You could have put the villain in jail. Why did you have to kill him? Like, all I know is that these girls are jerks, annoying, stupid, and they like killing people. Why should I like these characters? And I feel like whoever wrote this film thought like, oh yeah, we did it. We did it with this one. People are really gonna like these girls. No, I don't. They're terrible people. They're terrible characters, and I don't like them at all. Why would you think I would like them? But anyway, let's get to the diner scene, because the diner scene was actually embarrassing. The diner scene is probably one of the most embarrassing scenes in a film I've seen for a lot of reasons. But before we get to that, one more thing I want to say is there's a lot of flashbacks in this film, like a lot of visions of what could happen and what should be happening, but don't actually happen in the film because Madam Web stops it from happening, or it's just the vision he had. But here's the thing, every single flashback, dream sequence, or vision, that should have been the film. That should have been the movie. Because every flashback you see the girls being spider people. Or you see the girls going through some type of conflict or fighting the villain or something interesting is happening, but it doesn't actually happen. We just see like 20-second clips of a really, really interesting scene, a really, really interesting movie that doesn't happen. We see clips of a film I would have actually wanted to see, but never happens because in the trailers of this film, they show you that the Spider Girls are fighting crime and doing all these cool things and like posing cool. And that's not the film. If you were expecting to come to this film and see three Spider Women kicking butt, you're not going to see it because it doesn't happen. the whole point is that like they might kick butt in the future, so you should watch the next 3 movies we make about Madam Web. And that's not the point of making a movie, and it's so sickening. It's so dumb. It's awful. I'm so upset. Anyway, but let's get to the diner scene. I also want to talk about how like the infantilizing of Sydney Sweeney and also the overt over sexualization of Sydney Sweeney. Like if you thought it was bad in Euphoria, it is. But also I just feel like Sydney Sweeney is playing a teenage girl in this film, but she's also very much not a teenage girl. So like they try to like they basically put her in like this schoolgirl outfit with like a sweater, like a dorky schoolgirl outfit where she has like glasses and a sweater vest. But she also just has like the shortest skirt I've ever seen. Just because. And the other 2 girls have their midsections showing the entirety of the film. And I'm like, again, like I get it, like, midsections were like all the rage in the early 2000s, so like sure. But it's just like it just makes me feel uneasy about it. And in the diner scene, there's one point where basically Madam Web saves the 3 girls, like, you guys are gonna get killed by the villain, come with me. And then they basically hide in the woods for a couple hours. That's also where the teddy bear scene happened, where like they're bullying Sydney Sweeney's character for having teddy bear. But eventually the girls, the whole point is that they need to hide. They need to stay in the woods or they're going to die. And they know we're going to die if we leave the woods because the villain could find us. But they get hungry after like 2 hours. So they basically like walk a half a mile to a diner they saw up the road. And they go to this diner to get food. And like they're like eating. And then like they also have like some weird fight that I don't care about, but they're just so rude to each other the entire film. And these girls are not nice. And then at one point there's like a table of boys in the corner, and basically Sydney Sweeney and one of the no, all 3 of the girls somehow end up dancing on a table to Britney Spears. And mind you, again, Sydney Sweeney is wearing the shortest skirt I've ever seen. So she's on a table, probably, and the boys are sitting down, so they're looking up at the girls dancing on the table. So I'm sure they're seeing everything God gave her, and it's just like, you chose to put this in the film because okay, sorry, my brain short circuited and stopped for a moment. What was I talking about? Oh, Madam Web. Ugh. So that's just a portion of the film, just because I guess they could do it, so they did do it. Um, okay. And it just like seemed very unnecessary. And then Madam Web eventually she comes back after finding these photographs that Mama Web took. Also, Mama Web is a photographer, and basically these plot hole not plot hole, these like plot device photographs throughout the film. Basically Mama Web took every photo that Madam Web needs to understand exactly what's going on. So she sees a photo and she's like, that's that. And she finds another photo and that's that. And she sees another photo and she's like, that's where I need to go. And she just instantly finds everything she needs to know through these photographs that her mother saved for her, that she somehow has, even though it's also unclear how did Madame Web get back, because she was born in Peru. So how did she get back to America? Did the Peruvian spider people take her back to America, to New York? Because also everybody else was murdered by the villain. So how did, also, is Madame Web a U.S. citizen? Is anyone thinking about that? No, no one cares. Oh, okay, I got it. Sorry. But Madame Web, she basically she's separated from the she leaves the kids in the forest. She goes to her apartment, finds the plot device photographs, and then she comes back 3 hours later, and then the girls are gone, obviously because they're dancing on a table at a diner for teenage boys. Feminism Feminism. Anyway. Oh yeah, also by the way, I forgot to mention this. Sydney Sweeney was wearing like a longer shirt, and then they basically tie her shirt up so like it's like under her boob, and she's wearing again. So now her midriff showing too, and the shortest skirt I've ever seen. So, okay, continuing the movie. Madam Web has a vision, realizes that they're gone. She goes to find them, and she's like, if she doesn't find them, the villain's gonna kill them in the diner. And it looks like this Madam Web gets to the diner. She's like, we need to leave now. And then all the girls are like, we're so sorry for dancing on the table. It's so embarrassing. Sorry. And it's just this long sequence. I'm getting tired just talking about it. It's so boring. But it's like this long sequence. And the villain gets there, and basically Madame Web drives a taxi through the diner. Again, should have just made this fast 12. Should have just made it fast 12. I kid you not. But she drives the taxi through the diner. She hits the villain, and the villain basically grabs her arm, but then she like kicks the door of the taxi open to like knock him out, so then she can get away. And the taxi still works, by the way, and Madam Web's unharmed after driving a taxi through an entire building, but the car works fine, and she had no nary a scratch on her. Suspending belief. Anyway, they take off, and basically Madam Web's like, I have to go. They get away from the villain because the villain sucks. But Madam was like, I have to go to Peru. I have to find my origins. So she leaves the three Spider Girls with Uncle Ben and Peter Parker's mom, and just like watch them for a week, and then I'll be back. So the Spider Girls live with Uncle Ben and like this vacation home in Upper New York, I guess, and like they're safe and sound, everything. But then pregnant Peter Parker mama, her water breaks, and for some reason, even though these girls have absentee parents and they have been living on their own basically for months now, for some reason, and they're also being hunted by a man who wants to kill them. And these are three teenage girls. For some reason, Uncle Ben's like, get in the car. Let's go. We gotta help, deliver the baby. And I'm just like, this is the part of the film. Like, if anything, everything else, I can suspend my belief that there's tracking software, and that you can just have a vision and instantly know exactly what someone looks like. I can suspend my belief that they survived every villain encounter without having superpowers. And I can suspend my belief about a slurry of other things in this film. But you're not gonna tell me that three teenage girls can't stay home alone for a couple hours. You're not gonna tell me that's not a thing. Because it is. One teenager can stay home alone. Heck, Kevin McAllister stayed home alone and he was fine. How old was he? Like 9 in that movie? Like, come on now. What? So, there's three teenage girls and they can't stay in a home by themselves. There's literally no reason for them to ever leave that house. The house has full of food. It's safe. They had water, electricity. There was no reason for them to go with Uncle Ben and Peter Parker's mama to the hospital. They don't even know this lady. Like, and also hospitals are extremely populated and have cameras. Like, you guys know that they're being hunted. And there's so many people. It's so unsafe. Like, what? It just doesn't, my head. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reason that they should have gotten that car with Uncle Ben. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. Woo, child. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, they drive to the hospital, whatever. But at this point, Madam Web is still gone. Where is she? Madam Web basically takes a taxi to Peru. She drives that taxi to Peru. And I'm only saying this because the editing of this film was like absolutely ridiculous. And you literally see her drive away in a taxi, and then you just see trees. You just see the jungle of Peru. The next thing you see. So I'm like, oh, well, I guess she must have freaking drove that taxi to Peru. Like, why would they cut it like that? But eventually you do see a plane, but like that's after she's already in the jungle. So that's weird. She takes a taxi to Peru, then she takes and this is only like a not a commercial plane, like a small plane. She basically drives the entire taxi to Peru. She takes a small plane, I guess deeper into the jungle, and then she gets on a bus. And then that bus takes her even deeper into the jungle. And then somehow, again, with the plot device photography photo, um, she like looks at the photo and then looks up, and she's in the exact place she needs to be, the exact place her mother was killed. And I'm just like, do you know how big Peru is? But even when, you know how big a Peruvian jungle is? Now, I've never been to a Peruvian jungle, but I'm almost certain it's not that freaking easy to find exactly where your mother was. Like, I'm trying to calm down while I'm saying this. So she instantly finds exactly where she needs to be. And then the spider guy who saved her mother, he also immediately comes up behind her and knows exactly who she is. Like, through, I guess, spider intuition, the spidey sense. Ooh, maybe so. He just immediately knows that it's her. And maybe they are connected, like, because again, we, you know, in the other multiversal movies, like Across the Spider-Verse, you know, like Spider Sense kind of does, you know. So maybe he just knew it was her. And maybe you can say, like, oh, she just naturally knew where her mother was from. But that's also like, they don't explain that. They don't go into that. It's just she's there, she knows exactly where she needs to be, and then he knows exactly that it's her, even though she's an adult woman, not a baby anymore. Also, he doesn't seem to age up that much. But anyway, he's like, let me show you your past. And then it's like flashback, etc., etc. Basically, her mother went to the Amazon because Madam Web was going to have some form of a disease or disorder. And Mama Web was like, I want to go to the Amazon, the Peruvian jungles, to find the spider, to get the venom from the spider that will heal my baby. And that's why she did it, etc., etc. And then basically that's where he basically unlocks more of her powers and teaches her how to use her powers, of basically being able to see the future and change the future. And she astral projects again, and she flies back to New York immediately, and she's like, thanks, Spider Dad. Yeah. And heads back to New York. Of course, she gets to New York basically the very second after they leave the house to go to the hospital. And obviously, the villain finds the girls because they left their hideout. So, and now they're just on the streets of New York again, and they have the facial recognition software. So he finds the girls, and I'm like, do you understand how unsafe it is for it to be in a car? Like, you're being hunted, and you're in a car with a pregnant woman. I was so worried the entire time that Emma Roberts, Peter Parker mama, was gonna get hurt. But also, I wasn't worried because it's a movie, and we know that Peter Parker has to be born, so she was gonna be fine. But it was more annoying than I was worried. I was just like, why would they even be in the, like? I was just annoyed that they were even there. Like, y'all could have stayed at the house. You guys are almost adults. Like, you can stay at the house alone. What? Anyway, it's so annoying. But it basically gets to the climax of the film. Madam Web saves the girls. Adam Scott, Uncle Ben, and Emma Roberts is Peter Parker mama. They basically leave the scene to the hospital, and Peter Parker's born. He's fine. They don't actually say Peter's name in the entire film. But that's basically who was being born. We know that's who was being born. Um, and they blah blah blah. They fight the villain, and the villain loses. Like, if I'm being honest, the final act was very boring. Also, Madam Web drowns again, but this time, she gets hit with a firework, I think, and then basically, because she got hit, it like burns her eyes, so now she's blind, and then somehow she's also paralyzed in the process, and then she ends up becoming like the more comic book version of Madam Web, who is a elderly blind woman who's also sits in a wheelchair. But also it's still Dakota Johnson, so she's young. My head hurts. I don't even really want to be talking about this anymore. If I'm being honest, it's just such a bad film. Like, you can see how like slowly you can see how much I've been drained slowly even talking about this. Like, it's very upsetting to watch. It's just not a good movie. I made a couple more notes here I want to get into. Uh yeah, at the end, Madam Web somehow just becomes Captain America. Like, in the final fight, she just basically makes a makeshift shield and like has just, I guess, super strength, because if there's projectiles coming towards you, first of all, the makeshift shield she makes is basically a piece of shrapnel, and projectiles are coming towards her like fireworks and other pieces of debris. That's still very like the pressure, the velocity that it's coming, like, she still should get hurt, like, anyway. But she basically becomes Captain freaking America, and she's perfectly fine. Um, the editing in this film, oh my gosh, I got a headache a million times. I feel like you see how much I'm like rubbing my nose? I think I'm getting sick as I'm talking. I think like this movie's ruining my immune system. Anyway, the editing of this film is so, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, they keep like cutting like these crazy cuts, and then also a lot of the cuts are bad. Like, there's a lot of match cuts, but they're not good match cutting. And a match cut is basically like when you zoom in on something and then it cuts, and then it's like almost the exact same thing in the next scene. They do a lot of those in the film, but like they're not good matches. Like, it's like a mismatch cut. Um, so anyway, but like there's so much like 360 rotation upside down. Like, the camera must have been on the rig like this. Like, like the movie is like I'm getting dizzy thinking about the cinematography of this film, because it's literally a mix of static shot. Woo! Like, that's literally, and it's so disorienting. And the cuts are very fast, and they just don't make a lot of sense. Like, the movie's like, it's next level how bad this must have been on the editing floor. Like, the the cuts, the sound design, just, I don't know how to explain how bad this is, but like, I fit like my head hurts thinking about it. Other notes I made, they don't even have their powers in the movie, which is still so psychotic to me. That you made a superhero movie and nobody has powers except for Madam Web, but she barely knows how to use them, and like they're only like mind powers, but like not even cool mind powers, um like Professor X, like Charles Xavier, like he can like actually like do, like he can like do stuff, you know. All she can do is see the future. That's not really, I mean, and granted, when she does unlock her powers after talking to Spider Papa and from Peru, her Peruvian Spider Papa, she does have the ability to like astral project her form, like she can break up her form so like she can help all three girls at the same time with her mind, and like that's pretty cool. I wish they could have fleshed that out. I don't know. Before the end of the movie, I almost forgot she could do that because the final fight was so boring. But yeah, that's about it. But like again, I don't understand why they put the Spider Girls even in this film because they didn't do anything the whole movie. They were basically just walking plot devices like, oh, we need the villain to hate something, so let's just give him three girls he wants to kill, and that was the whole thing. But they didn't. The girls they don't have powers. They didn't do anything. They did nothing of value the entire film. The only thing the girls did of value is that Madam Web. There's like this super long scene in a hotel where the Madam Web taught the girls how to do CPR. Like she basically just CPR certifies them, and then Madam Web, when she drowns for like feels like the 80th time in the film, only like actually the second time she drowns. But basically after she drowns again, the girls fish her out of the water and they basically do CPR and then they revive her. And that's the only thing the girls did the entirety of the film. And they're like, remember our training? Remember she taught us how to do CPR? We can do this, girls. I'm so tired. I don't even want to talk about this anymore. Last thing I want to point out is Madam Web has a cat named Cat, I think. All I know is that there's one point where she's looking through the plot device photos her mama gave her, and she has a cat, and she says, what do you think, cat? Or something along the lines of like, come here, cat. I don't know. She was talking to her cat, and she called it cat. I don't know if that's like a Easter egg I'm supposed to know about, or like maybe she has a cat in the comics named Cat, or maybe she doesn't. I don't know, but she called her cat Cat, and I saw that and I noticed it. I thought it was kind of weird. That's really all I have to say. Any other notes I can think of? What was the point of the movie? I'm just looking at my notes now. The swooping pans left and right, the characters, the cinematography made me nauseous. The editing, there were so many flashing and jump cuts, it was barely watchable. I liked the mom, she was the most interesting character, but she died immediately. I will also say, yeah, Uncle Ben was a pretty decent character. I liked Adam Scott's portrayal. Well, I don't really know if it was a portrayal because he didn't really do anything. But I liked Adam Scott's character. He was a nice guy named Ben. He really wasn't Uncle Ben yet until the end of the film when Peter was born. Emma Roberts was also good, but it's like the only characters I actually cared about in the entire film was Uncle Ben and Emma Roberts' Peter Parker's mother. But we all know canonically they're both going to die. So what's the point? Like literally every character I didn't absolutely hate is either dead, like not Peter Parker. Mama Webb's is dead. I liked her character, but she's dead. Uncle Ben, Peter Parker's mom, I liked them. They're going to die. Mike Epps' character, he was a firefighter in the film. I don't know if I talked about him that extensively, but there's like Mike Epps, he's a character. I liked his character. He dies almost immediately because Madam Web saw he was gonna die, but then didn't do anything about it. So that's kind of shady. But like the Madam Web herself, I don't care. The three Supergirls, Spider Girls, I don't care. The villain, I don't care. But maybe he wasn't interesting. I can't even lie. But he also dies. And they tell us he was going to die in the beginning of the film. So it's just like, what was the purpose of me watching 2 hours of this if I knew he was going to die? The entire film makes no sense. You see how like I'm drooping? I'm literally sagging talking about this. That's how bad it is. I've never been this exhausted giving a plot. Like, I've completely lost all will. to watch a superhero movie film again. And I'm telling you, I've seen every single Marvel movie. I watched the Marvels that came out, another movie you shouldn't watch. That movie made me sad. But the Marvel, compared to Madam Web, the Marvels is like peak cinema. Compared to this, I might give Morbius another try. I might try to watch that again. Oh. I don't know how better to say don't watch a film. I don't know how better to say it. Please don't do this to yourself. I feel like there's like some stuff I left out, but I also don't care enough to even like get into it because there's really nothing else to say. I touched on whatever I wanted to touch on, and all I can say is, oh, what a stinker. What a stinker. What a dumpster fire. Anyway, yeah. Honestly, that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching. Please don't see this film. And yeah, catch me in the next one.